Yo, what's happening, Raider Nation? It's your boy Soto here. You know what it is. Raiders versus the world, talking about the team that the world loves to hate, your Las Vegas Raiders. All right, welcome to the first of many live shows. I'm going to try to hop on at least once a week live for you guys. I'm going to let you know a few days in advance, so make sure to keep checking the YouTube channel to see when the live shows are going to be. All right, a lot of stuff going on right now. The NFL just finds ways to just keep the media cycle like in their back pocket. For right now, we don't have free agency yet. That's not until, March. We don't have the combine yet. We don't have any of that stuff yet. But what we do have starting today is the today being what, Tuesday the 18th, is the start of the franchise tag season. So teams can franchise tag any players that they want, or transition tag, but rarely do they use a transition tag. Mostly just a franchise tag. So for right now, what we're looking at is why are teams going to use the franchise tag, especially early? Well, a lot of times, especially this early in the negotiating period, a team will use a franchise tag to kind of limit the options of the player. Okay. So basically, if a team just slaps a franchise tag on a player, it's like, okay, look, we're going to franchise tag you. Now, we're going to still negotiate, but just know that we're not going to let you walk. We're going to tag you. What does that do? It's all a negotiation tactic. Okay. So I don't know that any side is really going to take it personal if someone does that. I know that I don't think the Raiders have anyone who is franchise tag worthy. So I don't think we have to worry about it too much. Where we need to look at these things are in a couple of different areas. And the things that we need to look at, the players, are like quarterbacks, like a Sam Darnold, right? Or even a wide receiver like a T. Higgins. Now, T. Higgins has already been franchise tagged. So if you franchise tag a second year in a row, you get a big bump. But if I think the franchise tag for the second year wide receiver is something like 24 million or something like that. That's like 6 million less than what he probably wants, around 30 million. And now Cincinnati still has to sign Hendricks. They still have to sign Jamar Chase. So it's like they still have a lot of guys to sign to big contracts. Is that going to happen? I honestly think that Cincinnati will franchise tag T. Higgins. I don't know that they want to get rid of him. Okay. Another reason why team will franchise tag a player early is to get the trade negotiations up and running. Now, you can't talk trades yet, technically, but I mean, we're all adults here, right? We're all adults. I think we all know that this stuff happens. Okay. Like, you see like the free agency window opens and like someone gets signed at like 9 a.m. It's like, homie, you negotiated an entire contract with all the language in 30 minutes. Like, no, that shit was done a while ago. Okay. So that's another reason why a team can franchise tag. So don't just think because a team franchise tags a player that it's a lock that player is staying there. It's usually a negotiation tactic. What can happen is, for example, let's say it's the Vikings. Okay, let's just because of it's Sam Darnold. Okay, let's just say it's the Vikings. The Vikings say, you know what, Sam, we're going to franchise tag you because you know what, JJ McCarthy's coming back off an injury. He may not be ready to go just yet. We keep you under the franchise tag, and we go forward again, and you're going to show your great self again this season, and then we'll try your hand at free agency next year. But if something were to come along the way, right, down the pipe, where a team's going to offer us a high round pick for your services, we can negotiate a contract with all three parties involved, get a contract agreed to, then trade you, right? And then, so that way they get a little bit of compensation back. This is tricky. It really only works with quarterbacks. But because normally a team is not going to want to trade for a player and then sign him if it's not a quarterback. And you've seen with Derek Carr, they don't want the team that they're going to get diminished because of they have to trade away assets, right? So those are a couple of different probabilities or opportunities, different circumstances why a team would franchise tag a player so early. Do I think they're going to franchise tag somebody today or tomorrow? Probably not. It's going to be a little bit of time before that happens. But yeah, that's the franchise tag window's coming up right now, and we're in it. We'll see. There's still a second piece to that. The second piece to that is the player has to actually sign his tender. He has to sign the tag. A lot of times what happens is teams can tag a player, then rescind the tag and tag somebody else. We've seen that happen a few times already. Happened a couple times last year, where they tag a player because, okay, we want to negotiate a contract. The player and the player's agent's like, look, we don't want to play under the tag. We want to have more years. We want to have more dollars. Let's just negotiate a contract. Once we're done negotiating, they'll pull the tag back, sign the player, and then tag somebody else. Now, that's kind of it can get a little dicey because if your contract negotiation stretches out a little bit longer than you think it would, that other player who's a free agent may sign somewhere else. So you could get stuck, holding your junk and like, okay, that was kind of useless, right? Why did I do that? So yeah, it's not all. I mean, even now, when they used to call it the legal tampering period, now they call it the player negotiation period, where you can negotiate with your own free agents for like that 3 days before free agency really opens. We've seen where players or even teams they kind of like pull back the offer, or they reject the offer after they verbally agree to it. So I normally don't like to talk about or report on contracts until like there's pen to paper. Even if like Schefter, that hater, or Daniel Jeremiah, or anybody for that matter, said, "Oh yeah, they agreed to in principle." Like, well, in principle doesn't mean anything. Pen to paper, that means something. So there's a couple different things happening right now. So one thing I want to kind of guard against is the fact that just because you sign a big price free agent, that doesn't guarantee you that you're going to do much better the next season. All right. We're going to get into free agency, but before we do, I got so excited. I got so pumped up for the fact that we got a live show going right now. I forgot. Make sure everybody, please, if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe. Please subscribe and share to all your socials. We are at currently, drumroll please. Currently, we are at 930 subscribers. So let's get to that 1,000 mark, okay? Here's the deal. This is why I think it's so cool. I have not gone on any other podcasts. I have not mentioned this podcast on any of my other on my other channel. I have not mentioned this anywhere else. The community that we've built together here for Raiders versus the World has been all organic, all through the videos and all through you guys. There's been no pumping up, no poaching from other content creators or anything. Now, eventually I'm going to do that, but I wanted to get to that first 1,000, just you and just you guys and just us. Okay. And we're almost there. So I think it'll mean so much more if we do this without anybody else's help. Now, don't get me wrong. I am going to try to get some other people's help along the way, but I think that first 1,000, I only started making videos like less than a month ago on this channel. I had a different channel that was like the entire NFL, but it was just way too much work, man. And plus, I didn't really care about like Carolina or Jacksonville or any of those bum teams. I didn't care about them. So I got tired of like following them. Just the Raiders for me, please. Thank you very much. All right. Now that we got that out of the way, I want to show you a little bit of a list. Something that I think you guys will like. All right. If you guys can see this, maybe I can zoom in on here. Zoom, enhance. Okay, here we go. All right. These are the free agent contracts in total contract value. Okay. In millions. So we have Kirk Cousins. Let's take a look at this top 10 first, okay? Top 10, all right? This goes to show you that signing big-priced free agents isn't always the way to go. Kirk Cousins, Atlanta did not make the playoffs. Christian Wilkins, number 2. Vegas, Raiders, we did not make the playoffs. Robert Hunt, Carolina, did not make the playoffs. Calvin Ridley, Tennessee, did not make the playoffs. You have to go till number 5. And Jonathan Greenard with Minnesota, who made the playoffs. Xavier McKinney, Green Bay, made the playoffs. Leonard Williams, Seattle, did not make the playoffs. Mike Onwenu, New England, did not make the playoffs. Damian Lewis, Carolina, did not make the playoffs. You get what I'm saying here? Bryce Huff, number 10, did make the playoffs. But you're seeing it's not an end-all, be-all if you sign a high-priced guy that you're going to be successful the following year. You look down on the list here, probably one of the most – Bryce Huff was number 10 in total contract value. He was a healthy scratch in the Super Bowl because the other players on the defensive line just played better than he did. So he was a healthy scratch, even though he got paid a ton of money to be on that team. You have to go down to number 20 on the list here. Saquon Barkley was the 20th most lucrative contract free agency signed last year. And he was probably the catalyst that got them to the Super Bowl. Maybe not the win, but definitely got them there. So it goes to show you that it's not necessarily the player that you sign for the most money, but you sign the right guys to fill in gaps in your team. So it's going to be a big deal if the Raiders don't sign a high-priced free agent right away. Not necessarily. As long as the players that they do sign are guys that are going to help them get over the hump, help them really kind of solidify what they want to get done, either offensively or defensively. Hell, you go down here to the very bottom. I think it was like 180 or something like that. Hold, please. It'll be worth it. There you go. Mekhi Becton, 191. 191st largest contract signed. And he was a big piece of that offensive line. And just a little bit above that, if we go up a little bit more, here we have, let's see, yeah. Where is he? Where's Zach Braun? I think it's like 80 or something like that. Oh, well, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Control F, Braun. He's not on here. Whatever. Trust me, he wasn't that high. He didn't get paid that much money to be like one of the best players on the defense. He was in the running for Defensive Player of the Year and Comeback Player of the Year. So again, that goes to show you a lot of these pieces that you see in this range here really played huge roles on playoff teams. And you look at the guys at the very top. Not a lot of those guys were making big waves in the season and in the playoffs. So it doesn't always matter, what guys you sign. Honestly, I would rather do what we did last season, but just be a little bit better at the other guys that we sign. Because, yeah, if you guys have heard me in the past, you guys know what I'm all about when it comes to free agency. I'm all about studs and duds, okay? I'm all about studs. So if you're going to go for a free agent, go big. Get one or two high-impact players, okay? You want to get guys who are high-impact guys. I wasn't very big on the Corey Littleton signing because I looked at the situation that he was in when he had Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald playing in front of him, eating up double teams, triple teams. Yeah, I could have made tackles with those two guys eating up offensive linemen in front of me, right? So we signed him to a huge contract a few years ago, and he kind of washed out. I want these guys. I want the guys. Let's solidify the guys with the hands in the dirt. The 9 guys with their hands in the dirt, right? The 5 offensive linemen, the 4 front defensive linemen. Let's solidify that first. If you're gonna sign a free agent who's not a big money free agent, who doesn't have his hand in the dirt, okay, he needs to be special or a quarterback. That's the only thing that's like a little bit different. He's got to be a quarterback or he's got to be a 100% difference maker. All right. Other than that, you want to fortify your team from the inside out, and that's just where we need some help. We'll talk about a little bit more about this going forward, about some potential things happening, kind of 6 big things, 6 stories to look at going forward as we hit free agency, maybe a trade market, free agent signing, stuff like that. But I wanted to start off with just kind of giving us a little bit of a view on how signing big money free agents isn't an end all be all. We had the second most lucrative contract given last season, Christian Wilkins, and he got hurt after like 10 games, eight games, something like that. So we want to make sure that what we do is, I really do think if you guys saw my video that I dropped today about John Spytek and kind of how he operates, we need to get to what his strengths are as a GM, which is discovery, draft, and development, the 3Ds. All you guys out there, I know you guys like triple Ds, okay? Discovery, you have to be able to identify the players that you want, right? Either overall talent, production, projection, right? Going forward, how are they going to project to the NFL? You got to find them. Number one, that's discovery. Drafting, you got to pick them. You got to select them at the right times. You got to get a good draft strategy together, so you're not, picking a guy too early that you could have picked later, and you miss out on two guys that you could have had. And the third one is the development. You got to develop these guys once they come into your building. You got to develop them and get the best out of them. Part of that is having a flexible scheme. Part of that is also being able to fit players in your scheme, but only ask of them what they can do their best. I think a lot of times what happens is you see players that are put in situations that aren't, the most advantageous. They're asked to do more than what they've done in the past, or they're asked to stretch out a little bit more from their comfort zone of what they do well. And that's coaching fault, man. That's definitely a coaching fault. That's why you see some of these players who go from one team to another. Look at Mekhi Becton. We talked about Mekhi Becton. He didn't make $3 million last year. He was like $2.7 million last year, 2.75, I think. He was one of the better guards in the league. He was like ranked number 20 overall in guard play. What does that tell you? Well, maybe he doesn't have the lateral quickness and the speed to handle the outside edge rushers at tackle, but if you put him inside, he's more of a phone booth mauler. He played really well. Now, is that because he had Saquon Barkley as his running back? Possibly. Is it because they had a quick passing attack with Jalen Hurts? There's some of that too. Is it because he had great guys playing next to him? Sure. But that's all by design. Like, you want that to happen. You want the whole to be better than the sum of the parts, because you're helping your players out, and you're helping your players be successful with a scheme, with other players, with their teammates, with continuity, right? So those are a couple things to take a look at. All right. So I want to take a look at a couple things we're going to look at here. First one is a couple of moves that we should kind of storylines we keep an eye on, because honestly, these could really have a domino effect on what happens to a lot of other things in the NFL. The first one is actually, let me get a banner going. You guys want to get a banner going? So look, the thing we need to take a look at here is how things break down as far as what other teams do and how that affects the Raiders. Because a lot of times what we like to do as fans is just take a look at what the Raiders do and not really focus on what other teams do. Because honestly, what other teams do does really affect the Raiders in a very strong way. And the first one we're going to take a look at is a potential Myles Garrett trade. So how does that affect us? It affects the Raiders a lot more than just Garrett, the possibility of Garrett getting traded to the Raiders. Now, I love the Raiders, man. I love the Raiders. They're my favorite team. That's why I do a content creation show just about the Raiders. But there's no reason why Myles Garrett would want to leave a losing situation with the Browns just to go to a situation that hasn't won in a while in the Raiders. It doesn't make a lot of sense. If Myles Garrett gets traded, he would want to go to a team that is seen as more of a contender. Now, not to say that it's entirely impossible, okay? Because if he gets a good sell job by, Pete Carroll, by Max Crosby, by Tom Brady, by some showgirls in Vegas. Who knows? If he gets sold on the idea that having a defensive line that has Max Crosby on one end, Myles Garrett on another, and you have Christian Wilkins in the middle, that could be a winning combination. Then maybe we can swing something, but I don't think that's going to happen. Honestly, I don't know that John Spytek has really done anything that big to give up that much capital. I think John Spytek really does value his draft picks and value the things that he has to help build his team. The reason why this is important is if the Browns trade away Myles Garrett, it's almost a certainty, a certain lock that they're going to draft Abdul Carter out of Penn State. If not Abdul Carter, they'll draft whatever edge rusher they think is the best one. You're not going to have a defense built around the pressure that your front four can give you. Then you're just going to trade away the best defender in the league, probably the best defensive lineman in the league, and not replace him with somebody. And Abdul Carter is a guy that, he kind of broke out after, last year was the first year that he was a full-time edge rusher. He was all outside linebacker and, hand out of the dirt a lot before last season. So I'm just following the logic here, because logically it doesn't make sense for the Browns to get rid of the catalyst that makes their defense work and not replace them with the same guy or with the same position, especially when someone who's that talented. A lot of people think that Abdul Carter is the best player in the draft. I'm not going to split hairs. It's him. You want to say Travis Hunter, you want to say Abdul Carter. I don't care. Pick either one, because they're both great and they're both going to be great. So that's a big domino to fall, because that's a quarterback, quote unquote, quarterback needy team ahead of the Raiders, who will not be picking a quarterback. Deshaun Watson, God damn it, I don't know what the hell his problem is. Maybe he started rehab a little bit too hard, a little bit too fast. He popped his Achilles again. So he popped his Achilles in the season, and then he was doing more rehab, and then it popped again. It's a sad situation. It couldn't happen to a nicer guy. So that's how that situation can directly affect the Raiders draft. So let's say, for example, the Browns are like, dude, we're not going to trade you. You're going to stay here. We're going to build this team and blah, blah, blah. Then maybe the Raiders are a little bit more apt in the first wave of free agency to sign a quarterback, right? Because then they're like, okay, well, the possibility is pretty high now that there's 3 quarterback needy teams ahead of us. So we're probably going to want to take a quarterback, right? New England's not taking a quarterback. Jacksonville's not taking a quarterback. But there's always, Tennessee, Cleveland, and Giants. So there's a possibility of either one of those guys taking a quarterback. So we're gonna that's why it kind of sets things in motion for us. And you got to kind of, as a GM, as a scout, as a draft expert, you have to take a look at all this information, because all these mock drafts that you're seeing right now, those are all well and good, but that's before the first wave of free agency. Okay. Once the first wave of free agency hits, you're going to see these mock drafts change a lot, because a lot of these players are not going to fit. It's not going to be a logical fit if the team already addressed a need in free agency. Okay. So there's always exceptions, like there's an offensive lineman or a receiver or something like that. You can always use more weapons. You can always use more linemen, this and that. I get that, but you're not going to double up on the same position, free agency and in the draft. It was very weird that Atlanta did that, because they put themselves in a very precarious position that last season and this one coming up, having to pay Kirk Cousins so much damn money. He's a cut candidate as well. So having to pay him so much money. Now, speaking of Kirk Cousins, the next thing we want to take a look at is the quarterback carousel. Now, the thing with the quarterback carousel this year is it's a little bit different than it was last year or in years past. There are a lot of quarterbacks that are going to be available for not a lot of money. And Sam Darnold's going to be a little bit more expensive. Okay. But then you have three quarterbacks that are can work on your team. They can be good bridge quarterbacks. I don't think any of these quarterbacks that I'm going to mention are going to be seen as a long-term answer, but they have contracts with their current team, and they're almost a certainty, 100%. These next three quarterbacks I'm going to mention to be free agents because they're going to get released from their team because of salary cap implications. Those three are, we talked about one already. So Kirk Cousins is one. There's Aaron Rodgers from the Jets, and there's Derek Carr from the Saints. So what we have going on here is a similar situation to what happened last season with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson got released by the Broncos and still had a hefty amount of money left on his contract. Because of that, the Steelers were able to pick him up for $1 million, like $1 million. That's it. Well, they have another kind of decision to make this season going forward. Do you stick with Russell Wilson or you stick with Justin Fields? It's a tough one, man. Passing the ball and scoring wise, they were better under Russell Wilson, but they saw a lot of limitations in Wilson's game the last few games of the year. They really limped into the playoffs and just got pounded by the Ravens in the playoffs. Even though the score wasn't that wide, the game was never really in doubt. What we're taking a look at here is moving forward, right? Because I've told you guys a bunch of times, right? And you guys know this already. Head coaches look one season at a time. GMs look 3 to 5 years down the road. What's the best play for us that can work now plus going forward as well? So this is why a lot of these situations are going to be something I want to keep an eye on. When do these three quarterbacks get released? That's going to tell a lot, because if maybe let's say Sam Darnold, something weird happens and he signs somewhere and there's nothing available. Well, let's say these guys don't get released until after June 1st. Well, after June 1st, man, that's after the draft, right? So you're going to have to make a contingency plan up. And do you want to draft Shedeur Sanders and then sign, Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers? I don't know. It could work as long as you kind of know that, okay, Aaron Rodgers, you're going to sign for 2 more years or whatever, and then move on. And Shedeur Sanders is the guy. He's going to be the guy moving forward. But for right now, we're going to have you come in. It's a possibility. I don't hate it, 100% hate it. I mean, Aaron Rodgers' teammates, despite the fact that he's, a little bit of a douche, right? Whatever. I think we can all be, we're all adults here, right? We can say that. And he's kind of marches to the beat of his own drum. From all accounts, I mean, I don't know if you guys heard or read this article or read these stories, but I guess that Aaron Rodgers was kind of like pleading with the Jets, hey, man, I really want to stay here. I really want to play. So even with all the turmoil going on with the Jets, he still wanted to stick around. So what's going to happen? I don't know. But there's a lot of dominoes that fall into place. And that's why I started this whole thing talking about the franchise tag. If Sam Darnold was franchise tagged, that is, and I'm not counting Minnesota as a quarterback needy team because they have J.J. McCarthy. And if J.J. McCarthy isn't fully ready to go, there's a big possibility that Daniel Jones can be last year's Sam Darnold. Daniel Jones, I don't think anyone could argue this. Daniel Jones right now is a more accomplished quarterback than Sam Darnold was when he signed with the Vikings last offseason. I don't think anyone can argue. He's had more wins. He had, better stats. He's had a playoff win under his belt. Sam Darnold didn't have any of that. It's not out of the realm of possibility to have Daniel Jones step in, get re-signed just because you want to have a veteran presence just in case JJ McCarthy isn't fully ready to go, and then have him ball out. Stranger things have happened. Nobody really saw the Sam Darnold thing happening. So, there's a precedent set there. Now, if that were to happen, there's going to be potentially a Daniel Jones out there. Now you're getting really iffy, okay? The main thing we have to take a look at here is one move does kind of affect the other. Very rarely are any of these moves made kind of like in a vacuum where they don't really affect anything else. Because there's not really a time where a player who's of any type of value is only really looked at and coveted by only one team. The moves that one team makes is going to affect the moves that other teams make. All right. All righty, y'all. We got comments here. Hey, saludos desde San Diego. All right, DC. What's up, man? What's up, y'all? Hey, guys, super chats are open. If you guys have any questions, want me to I have some topics I'm going to take a look at here. But if you guys have any questions, man, super chats are open. Okay. Next thing I want to take a look at here is Shedeur Sanders. Like, is he a lock to be on the Raiders? I think a lot of people think so. I think that if he's available, that it's a kind of a foregone conclusion that Shedeur Sanders is going to be a Las Vegas Raider. And I'm not mad at it. I don't really get all the hate that Shedeur Sanders gets. I think Shedeur Sanders definitely is the most accurate quarterback in the draft class. I think he's a lot more athletic than he's given credit for. From the numbers that I've seen, he has a faster 40 time than Cam Ward does. And Cam Ward has a liver arm. Like he's got a stronger arm, but he's got like a 1.3 like rushing average in his career in college. So it's not like he's this running quarterback who's going to be running around and getting first downs. And if he is moving forward, it's going to be something completely out of character for him because he doesn't run to gain yards. He runs to throw the ball and hurt you down the field, which is fine. But I don't necessarily want to anoint Cam Ward as the much more athletic quarterback than Shedeur Sanders. What I think is Shedeur Sanders has been coached very traditional. Okay. He has got very traditional coaching and he's a traditional quarterback. He likes to hurt you from the pocket. He would prefer to hurt you from the pocket. Now, he does have the athletic ability to run. He doesn't do it, or he does it too late because he doesn't identify the opportunities to run as early because he does want to throw the ball more. We had that same thing happen to us for a few years with quarterback Derek Carr. Derek Carr, he's got like 6 rushing touchdowns in his career. That's pretty rough for having played the amount of time that he's played and started every single game like he's played, and he started every game that he's played. To only have 6 rushing touchdowns, that's way too little. He only started running when John Gruden took over and was like kind of forcing him to run. In the modern NFL, I don't care what kind of quarterback. I don't care if you're a statue quarterback. I don't care if you're Jared Goff. I don't care if you're Matthew Stafford. You need to pick up 2, 3, hopefully 4 first downs a game with your legs. You have to be able to do that. If you don't do that, you're putting yourself in a very big disadvantage because the defenses are just that good. And you're not always going to be able to beat defenses with your arm. You have to be able to beat them with your legs too. That's one of the reasons why the Eagles were able to bottle up Mahomes so well is they were able to get pressure on him with only rushing 4, and he didn't have anywhere to go with the ball. So he had to hold on to it a little bit longer, and he ended up getting sacked a bunch and getting pressured a bunch too. So you have to be able to run the ball and move the ball with your legs. And I think Shedeur Sanders is a lot more athletic than you might think. Going into a Chip Kelly offense where a lot of this quarterback movement is built in, the RPO game, the quarterback runs, the option game, stuff like that. He likes to move the pocket around a lot with like bootlegs and stuff like that and design bootlegs. It's going to get Shedeur Sanders, I believe, into that mode of just kind of shortening fields for himself, and give himself easier throws if he does move more and move with the purpose. Is he gonna all of a sudden be like a Randall Cunningham or something like that? No, he's not gonna do that. But he can be a lot more mobile and a lot more athletic than he's shown in college, because I think he was coached and trained so much to be able to hurt teams from the pocket. But I'm here for Shedeur Sanders, man. If that were to happen, I'm not going to be mad at it. I think that he'd be a great addition to the team. I think a lot of the hate that he gets is because of his last name, about who his dad is. And ultimately, I mean, look at the situation. Not many people have the access to somebody as knowledgeable about how not just the NFL and the players and the coach, but how the NFL works than Shedeur Sanders has in Dion. I think Deion Sanders understands how everything works, so you can't really snow him. You can't really kind of pull the wool over his eyes, because he's seen it all. Okay, and I think a lot of times people see that and they think it's a negative that he has Deion Sanders around. Well, I don't really necessarily see it that way. I think Deion Sanders would make things a lot more straightforward and also put a lot of pressure on the team to be able to do things the right way, or the way that's advantageous for them to win. And there's a lot of double talk, man. A lot of double talk in the NFL. A lot of saying one thing, doing another. So you can't really pull the wool over the eyes of the Sanders family, because they've seen it all. So I think that he gets a kind of a bad rap as far as that goes. All right, guys, let's take a look here. The next one we have is T. Higgins and his future. What's going to happen? I touched on it a little bit in the opening kind of monologue, as far when we talked about franchise tagging and free agency and stuff. T. Higgins is an X receiver. He is the X receiver. He's very important. Like, if you go 3x1 or 2x1, you're going to put T. Higgins off on his own. He's the guy that you're going to have to shade coverage to, even with Brock Bowers. He's that explosive and he's that important to an offense. I personally do not think the Bengals will let T. Higgins walk. I think that they know how important he is to that offense. They know that Jamar Chase would not be nearly as good as he has been without T. Higgins at that X receiver. What are you going to do instead? I mean, you only have one first-round pick. You only have one top 10 pick. You can get the quarterback, Shedeur. You're going to get, T-Mac. He's probably the best receiver out there who has the similar skill set that T. Higgins has, the size, the length, the catch radius, stuff like that. So definitely something to take a look at. If anything, you're going to see like a franchise tag and a kind of a trade worked out scenario before. But I just don't see T. Higgins getting let go or getting allowed to walk. All right. So that's it for that. I'm not going to go into the rest. This stuff doesn't really help us out any. What do we got going on here? Space Beast. That's why we need King Ted at 6. I mean, again, depending on what happens in the first wave of free agency, it really doesn't do us any good to get Ted McMillan if we don't have a quarterback. It is what it is. Someone came at me kind of hard today in the comment section about why everyone is dismissing Aiden O'Connell. I like Aiden O'Connell a lot, but he has a pretty low ceiling. I think we need to look at Aiden O'Connell for what he is, which is a very good backup. I wouldn't even say a bridge quarterback, because that's still a guy with starting potential, I guess you would say. But yeah, definitely not someone that you want to look at long term as your starter. He just hasn't shown it yet. Maybe he can make it happen and prove me wrong. I would love nothing more for him to prove me wrong, that he can be a legitimate starter in this league. But I just don't think that's going to happen, man. So it doesn't make much sense to get a T. Higgins or to really get a Ted McMillan if you don't have a quarterback. Now, let's say, for example, you get, you're able to sign for like almost for pennies. You're able to sign an Aaron Rodgers, and you go, okay, you got 2-year deal. That's it. Nothing else. You get 2 years, and then you're going to ride off to the sunset, right? Then you get a guy in the second round, you get a Will Howard, a Jackson Dart, maybe even a Jalen Miller. You get one of the guys that you want in the second round. Okay, you can do that. And then you have the young quarterback learn under Aaron Rodgers. It's possible. It's possible. Man, that way then you can go with a Tet McMillan at 6. I think if you have it's going to be really tough, man. Guys, really, I don't know if you guys saw my other channel that I had. Another channel that I had, I told you guys, watch out for the downfall of the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns won like 12 games the year before, and they were awful this last season. I said, watch out for these guys. These guys aren't as good as you think they are, and they weren't. I'm telling you right now, you watch how fast Will Johnson from the Michigan Wolverines, the corner, watch how fast he runs. If he runs a good 40 time, he's a top 5 pick, hands down. If he runs a good 40 time, he's 6'2", he's long, great ball skills, good coverage skills. If he runs a good 40 time, he's going to go in the top 5. If he runs a bad 40 time, he may be outside of the top 10. Just let you guys know. Just keep that under your hat, okay? All right. Recently, there was a kind of a polling of like NFL insiders around the league, and they kind of looked at all the head coaching hirings across the NFL. And I want to take a look at what the league thought about the hiring of Pete Carroll. There's a lot of things going on. What we saw here is, Pete Carroll to the Raiders, of course. There was Liam Cohen to Jacksonville. Duval. Kellen Moore recently just signed with the Saints. Aaron Glenn with the Jets. Okay, Brian Schottenheimer with the Cowboys. There was Mike Vrabel with the Patriots, and I believe the last one was Ben Johnson to the Bears. So, what was said in the article? What do we got here? What we have as far as the ranking list is, first one was Mike Vrabel. That was voted as the best hire of head coaching. Main reason is he's done it before. He took a Tennessee Titans team with a half a stiff in Tannehill to the top seed in the AFC. They were the number 1 seed in the AFC one year. The issue that happened in Tennessee is the owner got involved a little bit too much, gave a little bit too much power to the GM, and they started letting all their players go. They traded away A.J. Brown for almost nothing, right? Instead of giving him the money that he wanted, he went to Philly and balled out. They let go of Derrick Henry. They started letting go of their linemen. They didn't replace them with any linemen. The defense started to get a little shaky because they didn't replace any of the guys with any top-end talent. And honestly, it was just a deal where Vrabel was like, dude, stop cutting my legs out from under me. What's going on here? And it became contentious. And the owner, she picked, the GM. She sided with the GM instead and, let Vrabel walk. He didn't get fired because he was a bad coach. He got fired because I think he got fed up with the situation and what was happening with his roster and the fact that he didn't have any say in what was going on. And he got a little bit too vocal and they let him go. But he's still a really, really good head coach. He was a guy that I was looking at maybe the Raiders picking up, but the ties with New England were too strong. I think Robert Kraft has a strong arm and he's able to get in here and put his arm around him and say, you're back home here. You're part of the Ring of Honor. You're going to be able to make it happen here. You did it somewhere else already, right? Vrabel really isn't a Belichick disciple. Like he went to Ohio State and coached there first and everything, and then he played for Belichick, but he didn't really coach under him that much. So it's kind of a different tree he came from as far as coaching wise goes. So I think that's maybe a little bit different. Next, we have a tie for second between Ben Johnson to the Bears and Pete Carroll going to the Raiders. They each got there was a point value system attached to them. Vrabel to New England got 48 total points, and Ben Johnson and Pete Carroll each got 33. As far as Ben Johnson goes, the reason why he was given such a good grade was because his offensive prowess. On top of that, you're going to a team with a Caleb Williams. Now, look, Caleb Williams' stats, if you take a look at his stats compared to the other quarterbacks, they weren't that bad. They were actually pretty good. And he had an awful situation with the Bears. I'm talking about a terrible situation there. And he still did pretty good. So there are some pieces there. You got AJ Moore, and you got some guys, and you do need to solidify the offensive line a little bit. Maybe get a running back or maybe another receiver target. You got Cole Kmet. You got some guys there, okay? But what needs to happen is there needs to be some continuity in the offense. Caleb Williams went in there as a rookie, as talented as he is. He had he had three guys actually calling plays. Once the offensive coordinator was let go, the acting offensive coordinator actually became, in a few weeks, the acting head coach and was no longer offensive coordinator. Hang on one second. Let me wet my whistle. So that's really why the Ben Johnson hire is going to be the one looked at as the big one, and that's why it's given a lot of votes because of the just the innovative way that he calls plays, just his creativity offensively, and getting his hands on a young quarterback like a Caleb Williams. I think was why he got the vote there. Now we're getting to good old Uncle Pete. Good old Uncle Pete from the Las Vegas Raiders also got 33 points. Now, they want to talk about his age a lot. Look, if I'm as active and energetic as Pete Carroll is at 73 years old, I must have done something right. Because this dude runs around like you saw him at the press conference. He's like jogging down the steps and like really just energetic. And everyone talks about it the same way. He talks about him like, this guy's not 73. He's not a normal 73. This guy's going out there making things happen. A lot of energy. We'll see. We'll see how it works out. What they're saying here is just the stability that Pete Carroll brings to an organization. I think we've already seen that. I think we've already seen by his decisions on his coaching staff. So he said in his press conference, his introductory press conference, he wants, for his coaching staff, he wants to get guys that he's worked with in the past, which he has. Also wants to get guys that he hasn't worked with before because he wants to kind of get new ideas. And that's smart, man. That's what you really look for in a leader, a guy that's not afraid of new ideas. I've had a few jobs in my day where I've been in leadership positions, and I proudly say that I have not left a job without kind of training my heir apparent who took over my position after I left. What that shows is the ability to identify talent, nurture the talent, and develop. So when you leave, there's a continuity with somebody who was trained similar to you when you leave a position. Why is that important? Well, I don't care how energetic you are at 73, it's still 73 years of life. He's not going to be here forever. He's got 3 years, option for a 4th year. If he goes all 4 years, that's 77 years old. That's a grip, dude. That's a lot. That's a lot of years. So you need to have this kind of succession plan in place. Is it going to be Chip Kelly? Probably not. It's going to be Patrick Graham. Could be. One of his sons. Who knows? What we do know is Pete Carroll is the man right now. He's bringing a stability, he's bringing a calmness, and he's bringing a vision to this team. That's one of the things that he's done everywhere he's gone. Even when he didn't have the greatest years with New England or the greatest years with the Jets, he always had a plan. He always had a vision. He worked towards it. He went to SC, had a rough first season. Carson Palmer was like the guy to have when he got out of, I think it was San Clemente High School. He went to USC and was like, he's not doing great. He got the whole Buddy Hackett, era. Pete comes in, stabilizes things his first year. The second year, they win the national title. Or tied for national title, something like that. They won the Orange Bowl. They beat Iowa in the Orange Bowl. Great teams. The things we've got to take a look at is the fact that he went to USC, a program that was struggling, and he turned it around in a couple years. He went to Seattle, a team that hadn't been good for I don't know how long, They had that Super Bowl run maybe a handful of years before, and then that was it for quite some time. And he turned them around in a couple of years. And again, he went in there and he scoured for a quarterback. He said, "Okay, I'm going to trade for Charlie Whitehurst. I'm going to sign for Matt Flynn, and then I'm going to draft Russell Wilson." And guess what? The guy he drafted, the guy who was making the least amount of money out of all those guys, that's the guy that he ended up starting. I don't know if you don't know Coach Pete Carroll, you don't understand kind of how he works. He is all about competition. Everyone needs to compete. That's a baseline. That is a non-negotiable. No one is given a job. You go and compete for your job. All right. So the best man for the job is going to play. Not going to happen what happened last year when Aiden O'Connell was the quarterback that got AP hired the last 9 games of the season. And then he benched him for Gardner Minshew, who played like 3-day-old stepped-on dog crap. Okay? That's not going to happen this year. The best guy for the job is going to play. That's it. That's how Pete Carroll works. Okay? And I think it's very refreshing for players to know that I'm not going to be passed over from something that it's not of my control. Like if you're a late-round pick or whatever. Yeah, if you're better than the incumbent, you're going to play. It doesn't matter where you were drafted. You're on the team now. You don't get picked. You don't get extra points, or you don't get a head start or something like that because you were a high pick. No, everyone has an even playing field when the ball snapped. So what are we going to do from there? The best players on the team are going to play. Pete Carroll is going to emphasize that over and over and over again. And if you're all about competition, if you preach competition, right, and you don't follow through, everyone's going to know that you're full of it, and they're not going to trust you. And I'll tell you something right now. Pete Carroll may be a lot of things, but not trustworthy is not one of them. Okay? Players love him, they love playing for him, and they trust him. All righty. Some of his decisions were, good ones. And Charles Woodson actually spoke about some of these decisions. He said he liked the fact that Pete Carroll is generating excitement in the building, which is good because you want to make sure that the guys that you hire to come in and kind of breathe life into the organization, like the spy techs and like the Pete Carroll, stuff like that. He also likes the fact that the hirings made sense. What is the big issue with the Raiders last season? Their offense. Terrible offense, right? Last in rushing, too many turnovers, very predictable, things like that, right? Just goes to show you how special Brock Bowers is, the fact that we were that bad and he was still able to ball out. Well, you hired Chip Kelly. Look, I don't know how much desire Chip Kelly has to be a head coach again. He kind of washed out a couple times in the NFL. He's a little bit abrasive. Okay. Went to college and he was doing okay with UCLA. UCLA, they are who they are, whatever. Then he just got tired of the transfer portal. Like, dude, I don't want to keep doing this. I just want to coach offense. So then he goes to Ohio State as the OC, wins a national title. One thing that you know from a Chip Kelly offense is Chip Kelly offense is going to attack the defense where they're the weakest. They're going to run an innovative, exciting form of offense, and they're going to put up points. That's what Chip Kelly does. And that's what the Raiders needed. So that makes sense. They have a lot of free agents on the defensive side of the ball. More than half of their starters from last season are free agents. So they said, Patrick Graham, come on back. Rob Leonard, come on back. We want you to come back because we're going to know who we need to re-sign. And if we don't re-sign some of those free agents, who out there is a better fit? You don't want to not re-sign a guy and then sign someone else who's not as good. If you're going to lose a guy to free agency, replace him with someone who's better, right? Who's the people who are going to know that the best? The guys who've coached them before. I think Patrick Graham's a good coach. I think that we need some help in the secondary. I think we had the lowest grade of coverage grade in the secondary. Something we definitely need to work on. And Pete Carroll just happens to like a certain kind of guy in the secondary. We all know what it is. He likes big, long, aggressive corners. That's what he likes. They don't necessarily have to be the fastest, but it helps if you are. But you have to be able to play with your mind, Trust your eyes. And he likes them. He likes guys who have a long wingspan reach and who are ball hawks. That's what he likes. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a couple of guys who I've mentioned a couple of times before in my mock drafts about guys that we can get in the future. So Woodson always talked about a couple other things. The main thing he talked about was how much optimism he had in the hiring of Pete Carroll and Spytek and the coaching staff. Now we're going to have a video coming out real soon about just breaking down the coaching staff, coach by coach in different positions, and kind of who they are. And it took a little bit of time. I wanted to do it sooner, but honestly, it took a little bit of time getting all that information about all the coaches. But you just look for that one in a couple days. Finishing off, a hard reality. A hard reality here. The first power rankings came out, and these are very early. It's like the way too early power rankings. Okay. The thing that we're looking at here is, Dominique 5, what's up, man? How's it going? The thing that we take a look at here is, this is kind of like where people think that we're going to be. There's a lot of big things that are unsettled here, and there's a lot of reasons why we were picked to be power ranked where we are. Raiders were ranked to be 26th in the league. That's terrible. That's pretty bad. The reason is, it's just we're so unsettled at quarterback. That's the main thing. Now, there's all the other things too. There's a lot of turnover up top. There's a new Spytek new guy. There's a new head coach and new offensive coordinator and stuff like that. There's a lot of upheaval going on. I don't think that's going to be too big of an issue, simply because you're looking at a lot of experienced people to put in the position that are going to bring calm, that are going to bring peace. Some of you may know, some of you may not know. I help manage and I help coach at a Muay Thai fight gym, right? I do a lot of stuff. Okay, I would love to nothing more to be able to sit at home and just crank out content all day. But I got a lot of things to do. I got juggling a lot of balls. Okay, wait, that sounded weird. Juggling a lot of jobs. Okay, I got my day job, right, and then I work at the gym, and I also do this. But rarely do you see the really in your face, fiery, like just bombastic coaches or the guys that get a lot done. It's the guys that are calm. Now, don't get me wrong, we have to, get on their ass sometimes. But guys that are calm, able to convey their vision, to be able to convey their coaching, to be able to convey a game plan and a strategy, so that not only can be explained, but it can be received by the fighter, right? It's a big thing, and it's something that's really lost into there's a lot of pad holders out there, not too many good coaches out there. Same thing now. There's a lot of good play callers out there who can design a play. That's great, but there's not a lot of good coaches out there. I know for a fact that a lot of coaches nowadays, they don't like the teaching aspect of their job. I feel that Josh McDaniels is one of those coaches. He doesn't really like to teach. He likes to implement. This is my system. If I'm going to teach you anything, it's going to be my system because I want you to do things this specific way. That's pretty dangerous because if it doesn't work right away, you can lose these guys because you're very strict on what you want them to do. And if they're trying their best to do what you want them to do and it doesn't work, you're going to lose these guys. And that's why Josh McDaniels lost a couple teams into the second season each time he had a head coaching job. He's much better as a play caller and an implementer to implement his offense. To have someone else take care of the coaching part, head coaching part, right? I think a lot of these guys now that are looked at as players, looked at as coaches who can be head coaches, they're looked at more of how good are they as a play caller as opposed to how good are they as a coach, as a leader, as someone who can bring calm and stability to a franchise. Even though a Dan Campbell, right, is a little bit more boisterous than you wouldn't call him necessarily a passive guy. He is a guy who's a good leader and someone who the team can get behind and the team can trust. That's Pete Carroll to a T, for sure. The main thing you want to take a look at here is the fact that, yes, there is some upheaval in the coaching staff, but There is the change was made where it needed to be made. I don't know necessarily that change needed to be made on the defensive side. We had a lot of injuries last year on the defense. I'm not making excuses. I'm just telling you facts. Had we had our full complement of players for a good chunk of the season, and that includes Malcolm Kuntz, I think this team would have been much better. Now, where we needed the help was at head coach, because Antonio Pierce, I like Antonio Pierce very much, and I wish him the best of luck in everything he does. He's just not cut out to be a head coach, at least not yet. There's a lot of things he needs to work on, game management, time management wise, stuff like that. Organizational skills, accountability, stuff like that. Stuff that you don't have to worry about with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is like the master. He's like the master splinter of that. Like, he's not because he's old, but because he's smart. Well, he's old too. But on top of that, you have a change where you need it on the offense with Chip Kelly. Now, if you're going to hire a guy to just coach the offense, there's not many better out there than Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly's had a lot of different types of quarterbacks that played for him. He's had Nick Foles. He's had Mike Vick. He's had Sam Bradford. It's not always the Marcus Mariotas of the world who can just run like crazy and throw the ball deep. That's not only quarterback type that's worked out well for him. Now, he's had some of those guys that play for him who would be able to take advantage of the skill set and the plays that he has. But he had Will Howard. I mean, Will Howard's a big pocket passing quarterback. He's not necessarily a mobile quarterback. So he's able to adjust his scheme to the quarterback that he has, which is what we need. If we don't get a type of player who's like I'm not saying they're even available, but like a Caleb Williams type or a Jaden Daniels type. Let's say we do get a Shedeur Sanders, he's going to take advantage of the fact that Shedeur Sanders is probably the most accurate passer of the ball in this draft. Does he have a great arm? No. Does he have a good arm? Yeah. He has an NFL arm. It's not a problem. And he's accurate with it in the short, intermediate, and the deep throws. So we put that marriage together. It doesn't matter who you put with him. He's going to be able to find a fit and a scheme that's going to work. All right, guys. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. That's an hour done. If you guys have anything else you want to say, anything you want me to make videos on, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. Everybody, please, I need your help. I need you guys to like, comment, and most importantly, I need you to subscribe to this channel. We're almost at 1,000. Let's take a look right now. Look at my phone right quick, because you know how we do. We are at 932. Okay, we're almost at that 1,000. Let's get there. If you're watching this video, and if you've seen this video or some other of my videos in the past, or you kind of have a little bit of interest of what I'm going to do going forward, hit that subscribe button, man. It'll really help me out. Make sure that you do that, because it'll really help out this channel. Again, I want to get to that 1,000 organically. This is just us, man. It's us doing this together, okay? We get to that 1,000, then we can talk about going on some other podcasts and stuff like that, and advertising a little bit more. But for right now, I want to make sure that you guys know that I'm here to help you guys. It's us together making this thing grow, okay? Appreciate your time, guys. Till next time, everybody. Peace.